Well, good afternoon. Distinguished Dr. Jovanovic, President of the Belgrade Forum for a World of Equals, participants in this important event. It is an honor for me, coming from Cuba, and as the President of the Cuban Institute of Friendship with the Peoples, to represent my countrymen in this significant and noteworthy international forum advocating for peace, for the resolution of conflicts through dialogue and negotiation, in defense of sovereignty, people's self-determination and equality, especially at a time when wars, bombings, and all kinds of aggressions and imperial threats continue to destabilize many countries in the world, causing death and desolation. It is particularly emotional for me, being in this country for the first time, remembering that Cuba and Serbia have been united in fraternal ties for 124 years, extraordinarily strengthened since the triumph of the Cuban Revolution in 1959, where the sincere and supportive embrace between our Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro and the Yugoslav leader Josip Broz Tito sowed in the heart of our two peoples ties that continue to be strengthened by love, friendship, respect, and mutual solidarity. I take this opportunity to thank the Serbian government for its support in our just struggle against the genocidal, illegal, and intensified policy of economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed on Cuba by the US government for longer than 60 years, intensified during Donald Trump's administration with the adoption of additional measures in the inclusion of Cuba in an infamous list of countries allegedly sponsoring terrorism. I am sincerely grateful for the declaration condemning the blockade adopted by the Belgrade Forum for a World of Equals in April of last year. I am also grateful for the solidarity and support provided by many friends from Serbia and other countries that are present here, represented during those intense and hard days of struggle for my liberation and that of my four brothers accused unjustly of terrorism. We were forced to remain in US prisons for more than 15 years, while the real terrorists lived and swarmed freely along the streets of Miami, receiving funds and support from right-wing extremist groups. The Cuban people has been the victim of terrorist actions, bacteriological wars, assassination attempts of its leaders, and destabilizing campaigns accompanied by an economic war that seeks to provoke chaos, hunger, despair, and the surrender of our people. An economic war that punishes the Cuban people for standing tall on the defense of our sovereignty and our right to self-determination, which means deciding our own destiny. Serbia experienced something similar 25 years ago, when it suffered the aggression of the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization during 78 days of bombings, leaving behind death and destruction under the paradoxically named Operation Angel of Mercy, which meant the theft of the southern part of the territory, Kosovo and Metohija. Therefore, from this tribune, we reiterate once again our position in support of the territorial integrity of Serbia and its right to sovereignty over Kosovo and Metohija. Kosovo belongs to Serbia in correspondence with international law and the Charter of the United Nations. I remember, as if it were today, the words of our Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro when he wrote, and I quote, "The world afford itself to allow the drama of NATO's war against Yugoslavia to be forgotten by the silence of those who were actors and important partners in that brutal genocide, end of quote. By holding this international forum on such a significant date, you are remembering and defending history. The peoples of the world cannot forget. That is why we're here, sharing with you these moments of solidarity based on the hard-lived experiences of 25 years ago. It is not possible to forget past history. It is not possible today either to ignore the genocide of the Zionist government of Israel against the Palestinian people. From this tribune, we reaffirm our full solidarity and moral support to the heroic and suffering Palestinian people. It is time to put an end to the new escalation of violence. Distinguished participants in this forum, this March 24th marks the 25th anniversary of the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, a country that disintegrated after a series of ethnic conflicts in the 1990s, and that in 1999 was formed only by the current Serbia and Montenegro. NATO forces intervened in the conflict over Kosovo's independence without the United Nations approval. The bombing took place from March 24th to June 11, 1999. During 78 days, NATO launched a total of 2,300 missiles against 990 targets and 14,000 bombs on the territory of Yugoslavia. In Belgrade alone, 212 bombs fell. Between 10 and 15 tons of depleted uranium were also released, causing an environmental disaster which multiplied by 5 the cases of cancer diseases. The 2.5 months of incessant airstrikes claimed the lives of more than 2,000 civilians, including 88 children, and injured another 6,000. NATO remains today what Fidel defined back in 2011 as, and I quote, that brutal military alliance that has become the most perfidious instrument of repression in the history of mankind, end of the quote. Its criminal purpose became evident in Serbia, a country of Slavic origin whose people heroically fought against the Nazi troops in World War II. While we hear the drums of war that are afloat again, let us redouble our efforts to solve world conflicts peacefully. Let us fight to transform the unjust and unsustainable international order that prevails, and let us strengthen the mechanism for integration, the defense of peace, and the principles of equality. Let's limit global military spending and ensure that the millions spent for that purpose are invested in development, health, education, and the well-being of peoples. Cuba will continue to raise its voice to reject domination and militarism. Fighting for peace means fighting to save humanity. With that spirit prevailing in this forum, let us cry out then, eternal glory to the victims of the NATO bombings in Serbia. Thank you very much.